Hi, my name is Labaron Philon. You're watching the Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you today in the home studio in Birmingham, about to hit the road for Alabama women's basketball tonight at Vanderbilt. But an exciting time of Crimson Tide athletics as basketball seasons are in their final weeks of the regular season. Baseball and softball underway as well. But we're glad to have you with us for Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. We'll start our show as we always do by taking a look at what's coming up in our headlines, thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. Let's see what's coming up on the show this Thursday afternoon. First of all, we'll visit with Labaron Philon Jr., the Alabama Crimson Tide men's basketball team. Hasn't played in the last two games against the LSU Tigers and Mississippi State, but we get his thoughts on everything that's going on in his sensational sophomore year for the Crimson Tide. Then we'll break down Alabama basketball, get some football thoughts as well from BamaCentral's Hunter Siver. He had a great long-form piece earlier this week on Amari Allen, just before Amari had a great game for Alabama against Mississippi State. Then we'll close out the show with Chris Stewart and Jamichael Green. Fun time they had last night on the basketball booth cam presented by NASCAR. Our booth cam highlights will round out the show on this Thursday afternoon. Starting with that men's basketball team, last night 100-75 the win against Mississippi State as Alabama posted 63 points in the first half. Amari Allen 23 points in the ballgame. The three-pointers are really flying in for the freshman from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Love that performance from Amari Allen. Now coming up on Saturday, the Crimson Tide and the Tennessee Volunteers. Alabama trying to end a long losing streak to Tennessee, and earlier this season, Tennessee posted a win in Tuscaloosa against the Crimson Tide. So Alabama trying to snap that losing streak and just continue the momentum of this 7-game win streak as the Tide and the Vols battle in Knoxville coming up on Saturday. For the Crimson Tide women's basketball team, also headed to the Volunteer State coming up later tonight. Alabama at 5th-ranked Vanderbilt. 6:30 will be the start time. Alabama has dominated the Vanderbilt series over the recent years, going 9-1 in the last 10 meetings. And prior to last season's Vanderbilt win in Tuscaloosa, the Crimson Tide had won 10 straight against Vanderbilt. But it'll be a tough matchup. Michaela Blake's the NCAA's top scorer, averaging 26 points per game. She and the Commodores hosting the Crimson Tide tonight at Memorial Gymnasium. Great news from the Southeastern Conference, someone we featured on the show before, Carly Weathers. She has been named to the SEC Community Service Team. We talked before about everything she does away from basketball with her nursing degree and just the way she gives back to the community. Congratulations to Carly Weathers on that honor. Speaking of honors, she will be honored coming up on Senior Day. A great senior class will get their final recognition for the final home game at Coleman Coliseum. Alabama against 4th-ranked Texas. 11 a.m. will be the start time. And make sure you're at Coleman Coliseum early. All the Senior Day festivities will be prior to the ball game, so make sure you're in your seats around 10:15, 10:30 so you don't miss anything coming up on Sunday morning for Alabama against Texas. Busy time coming up for softball and baseball. The T-Mobile Crimson Classic will start everything for the Alabama softball team, even added an extra game to the Sunday schedule. We look forward to seeing what's coming up for Coach Murphy and the Crimson Tide, ranked number 10 in the top 10 in really every collegiate publication. D1 softball has Alabama at number 8 at the moment, but the Crimson Tide ranked as high as 5th in one poll. So Alabama softball doing very well, an undefeated start to the season. For the baseball team, a tough loss on Tuesday night at Southern Miss, but they'll try and bounce back this weekend in Frisco, Texas, at the home of the Frisco Rough Riders, AA team of the Texas Rangers. It'll be Alabama against Iowa on Friday, a very good Oregon State team coming up on Saturday, and then the Houston Cougars to round out play in the Lone Star State. For Alabama athletics, gymnastics will be busy. All eyes coming up tomorrow on a number 3 Alabama versus number 2 LSU matchup in Baton Rouge. That place is going to be sold out. It's going to be a great environment, and hopefully we see more great scores for Alabama. Jasmine Colley's been posting great scores for the Crimson Tide as a freshman, and as a result of her great performances against Auburn, she has been named the SEC Freshman of the Week. Congratulations as well to Samuel Ogazi of the SEC, or the Crimson Tide indoor track and field team. He was named the SEC Indoor Track and Field Scholar Athlete of the Year. So great accomplishments on the track and in the classroom for Samuel. And then 12 players are competing at the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. We'll talk about that a little bit more with Hunter DeSiver in our interview with him coming up shortly. But for you football fans, lock on to the NFL Network to watch all the coverage of the Combine. And again, Alabama very well represented this year with 12 players in Indianapolis. Crimson Tide have been well represented all throughout this season by sophomore Labaron Philon Jr. We recorded an interview with him last week right after Alabama had that double overtime win against Arkansas in Tuscaloosa. And then unfortunately, we haven't seen Labaron on the court since then as he continues to nurse his way back from a few injuries, mostly sustained in that game against Arkansas, a very physical game where he played extremely well. But Labaron joined us to talk about everything that he's learned this season, getting to play for Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide in his second year as a member of this Alabama basketball program. Fantastic conversation with Labaron Philon Jr. Welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. We're coming to you from inside the LLH Healthcare Advantage Center at our podcast studio. Roger Hoover, please be joined by Labaron Philon Jr., the Alabama Crimson Tide men's basketball team. And Labaron, Roll Tide, how's everything going? Is now the season starting to wind down a little bit?
It's been going great. Everything I expected. We got off to a rough start, but we kind of picked it up in the last few games and just getting everything together just for, the long run in the tournament and, the SEC tournament. So the season been going great. I've been, doing well and just hoping it continue to go away. It goes now.
We're recording right after Alabama played Arkansas in a double overtime thriller in Tuscaloosa. You guys were down at 10 at halftime. What was said in the locker room to get everyone on the right page?
It was just simple. We knew the things that we needed to do to, try to turn the game around. And we just, focused more on that. Coach made a little bit of adjustment, to the game plan and stuff like that. But, from an overall standpoint, I would say just all the guys coming in together in the locker room and just saying that, we can't lose this game. So it was a great feeling just to see that, our guys being able to have that mentality just to fight back and keep playing, throughout the adversity we had throughout the game.
Yeah, such a high-scoring game. Obviously, Darius Acuff, good game for the Razorbacks. You lead the way with 35 points for the Crimson Tide. Do you enjoy when a game kind of gets like that and it's just shot after shot going in, trading blows each time?
I would say, we weren't, just trying to do that purposely. We was trying to go out there and stop the other team from scoring. But, he did a really good job of getting in the paint and just making tough shots. And, once that happened, you just got to try to contain a guy and just try to, win the game. So, he was making a lot of shots. It was, tough for our defense, but, we know the things that we needed to work on and, we're going to continue to get better at the things we need to work on. So just from a team aspect, I would say, that game right there, it showed a lot just because, we didn't give up at any time. I would say, going to double OT, that was a long game. So it was a great feeling just to get out there, with a win.
How about Houston Millett and those overtime three-pointers?
It was big. I found him on two big three-pointers. I seen, when I was getting downhill, the guys, they just started collapsing even more, ever since the game got, deeper into the shot clock, deeper into the clock. So I seen, guys just kept running off him, and, I threw the ball to him 2 times. He made 2 big threes. I don't think he, scored in regulation, but, he was probably big reason we won that game. Him, Aiden Sherrill, and I would say all the other guys as well. It's not just all about points. It's just about, going out there doing winning stuff and winning the game. I mean, and, Coach preached that to us all the time, just going out there to do anything to win the game.
And we really saw that in that game in particular. And for you, this is the sophomore season for you at Alabama, a brilliant freshman campaign a year ago. But after starting to learn a little bit more about what the NBA is looking for from you in the next level, what do you feel like you've worked on the most with your game? What are you proud of with your play so far?
I would say just being able to find a balance in between of just being able to naturally score and being able to just be a playmaker for your teammates. Really, that's a big key. And, all point guard success, it's just like being able to have that balance in your game. And I would say, just from a defensive aspect, just like picking it up on that side of the ball, and just being more into it, being more into the game, and just like having the right mentality coming into these games and practices and stuff like that. So that's really important for me, just to have the right mentality going into every game, because you never know which game could be your last, or you never know which game is going to be a bad or a good game. So just having the right mentality is really important for me.
Have you enjoyed playing defense more this year? Had you always liked defense before, or was this something that Coach Oates has kind of inspired you now to really give it your all on defense?
Yeah, I like playing defense. It's a fun thing to do. It's just like your defense tied to your offense tied to defense. So it's just like you have to do it. In the game, you just can't play offense all the time. The ball have to be flipped to the other side of the court. So I would think, just like picking it up on that end. Coach Oates, he do a great job of just like keeping me into it and just like keeping me focused on the right thing. So.
How much fun then offensively do you have in this system? You guys play with a lot of freedom out there, it feels like?
Yeah, Coach O's give us a lot of freedom. All the coaches do. They install confidence. The first day you get here and to the last day you leave, you're gonna leave with something. You're gonna leave with some good things that you learned over the last year or two. So just like being in this system is really important, just for all the guards and all the wings and bigs. It's just like everybody get to play freely, but it's still like a certain standard that they hold us to. Just like not going out there doing anything crazy, but just like taking the right shots, or just like having love and joy for your teammates, even when your success not really as big as theirs, but just still loving your teammates, still cheering for them, like you did it, or you went out there and did a terrific job. So.
You had a great freshman year. How about the freshmen we're seeing this year, London Jimerson, and especially Mari Allen with what he's done?
Mari, I would say, he's just a competitor. He likes to play basketball. Both of those guys, I think, they grown a lot. Just seeing when they first got here until now. I mean, their whole mindset changed. They just want to win. And I think everybody in the program want to win. That's a good thing. And just to seeing them go out there and contribute at a high level, for freshmen, is really, just exciting to see from them too.
What gets you the most fired up when you think about what could be ahead as we start to wrap up the regular season? Then you got the SEC tournament, NCAA tournament around the corner.
I would just say the tournaments, really just trying to go and win them, and just finishing the regular season out strong, really, for me. But just for our team, just to have a deep run in the tournament, and try to win the SEC tournament. That's the biggest goals we got right now. So we just gotta keep stacking days and take every day one day at a time, and until it's about that time.
Do you feel like having experience in it last year, getting to go to the Elite Eight, will really help you and so many other players this season?
Yeah, I would say definitely, just because we've been here, and we played, and we know what the atmosphere look like. We know what the game would be called like. So it's a real grimy, hard, physical game when it get down in March. So we got to be ready to go toe to toe with any team they match us up with, or in the tournament, SEC tournament. We just got to be ready, and I think Coach Oates been doing a good job of just getting our guys ready for the next game and just putting it all on the line.
How much have you enjoyed this experience, getting to play for the Crimson Tide?
It's been a fun experience. I mean, I came back home freshman year. It was going great. I mean, went into the draft process, decided to come back, and ever since I just been back, it's just been a unreal feeling, just to wear Alabama again across my chest, and just like being able to go out there and put on for the fans, and just like the community of Alabama is really important to me. And I think it was just like, as long as season it just keep going, you just really you feel it more. You feel it more when it's getting closer to the end of the season and stuff like that. So just like trying to just be grateful of every game that we have now, and just like being ready to lace them up at any time, I would say.
Your friends and family been burning up the roads, getting from Mobile up here for a lot of games?
Yeah, they come to every game. Every game, either it's away or a home. They be there. Somebody be there.
That's really good. And how much did you lean on them when you were going through that draft process last year and deciding whether to stay or go pro?
It was very important. I had to talk to them every day just to see what they think about it. But their thoughts really don't mean nothing. I was just trying to get just like just visualize what they think and from what I think. And I think, we was all on the same page from a family standpoint, and it was just like important just to see that just like that group just grow. And it was really important just for me just to see that my family got my back like that. It was really important.
So now they're getting to enjoy this season with you guys and the Crimson Tide. Again, as time's starting to wind down this season, what should our fans be excited about the most for what this group's capable of?
I would say, we just not getting started. I would say, a lot of people had expectations or, stuff they wanted us to do. I mean, it started off rough, but we kind of picked it up here in the last couple of games, and we just gonna go with that momentum and keep trying to do that, keep trying to, rattle off wins, and that's the most thing that everybody in the program been saying, just like one game at a time, one practice at a time, and one day at a time. So that's all we've been, focused on for the last couple of weeks.
You love the sport as well from the fans. I mean, Coleman was as loud as I've heard it that Arkansas game.
Yeah, it was a fun experience. I want to thank all the fans just for coming out. It was a hell of a game. I mean, probably some people say it was game of the year, but it was just like seeing all the fans show up and support, every game, every home game, win or loss. That's a really big, feeling, big thing for, this program and just like Alabama in general.
Well, Labaron, huge games are still coming up for you and the Crimson Tide, but I wanted to thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. All the best with what's going ahead for you and the Crimson Tide. Roll Tide.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
Fans, there's no better way to experience Alabama basketball than with our live basketball booth cams presented by NASCAR. Streaming live during all Alabama men's and women's basketball home games this season, you'll get a front row seat to all the great reactions from our radio crew as the big plays happen for the Crimson Tide. Make sure you follow us on all your favorite social media platforms at UA_CTSN, especially subscribe on YouTube. That way you won't miss a single basketball booth cam this season. Again, presented by NASCAR for all Alabama men's and women's basketball home games this year.
Go Holloway, a deep three, bottom. Mercy from 30 feet out, dead on. Holloway with 25, and Bama leads it by 14.
More focus on men's basketball on this Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR as we visit now with Hunter Siver, who covers Alabama athletics for BamaCentral. Earlier this week, a great long-form feature on Amari Allen and the long road he's had to Tuscaloosa from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I invite all of you to check that out on BamaCentral, but Hunter joins us now to talk Crimson Tide basketball at this point of the season and also look ahead to a few things with spring football just around the corner. Hunter, it is great to see you as Alabama basketball keeps rolling now. 7 wins in a row. What are you seeing from the Crimson Tide on the hardwood right now?
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, Nate Oates was asked on Tuesday if Alabama is peaking now, and he said not exactly just yet. They're getting there, but it seems like to me that 7 wins in a row, you're starting to peak at the right time. We're getting close to March, and only 4 games left in the regular season, all winnable games, and I'm excited what the Crimson Tide's doing right now.
Well, especially in the first half last night, 63 points. Alabama doing that without Labaron Philon, eventually getting to 100 points in the game. Just Nate kind of jokes about it as well post game. This offense without Philon sometimes looks really, really deadly.
Yeah, it's kind of strange that a guy who's in the running for SEC Player of the Year and is the top 15 projected pick it seems that in the 2 games that he's been out, Alabama's had 22 3-pointers. Aiden Holloway's been running the offense when he's been out, and he's done a very good job of it. He had 10 assists last night. He double-double. He's 3 rebounds shy of a triple-double. The ball seems to move a lot faster when he's running around. Obviously, he's kind of more of a quicker player. Aiden Holloway's really improved over the course of the season, both as a playmaker and a defender, and obviously a scorer as well, inside and out. And he kind of led the charge last night.
He really did, and then a huge game as well for Amari Allen, a Crimson Tide freshman, really showing what he can do, including hitting a 3-pointer from the logo. I mean, what'd you see from Amari last night?
Yeah, I was excited that on the day after I published my feature on him, he puts up 23 points. But first half, he went 5 for 5 from deep. And then something that Nate was disappointed in, because he's always going to be disappointed in something. Even if Alabama wins by 25, is Alabama lost in the second half. If you're just counting that, I think the score was 42-37 in favor of Mississippi State. And the reason why I bring up Amari Allen is because he only attempted 2 threes. It seemed like they were getting very complacent. A lot of off dribble threes that were unnecessary. They were maybe going too fast. Not ball movement was not really there in the second half, and that was kind of a bit of Alabama's downfall last night. But overall, it was a good win.
Really good win for Amari Allen. And speaking of him and that long form feature he had on BamaCentral, what you enjoy most about reporting on that story? Anything you really knew that you learned about Amari Allen and his journey to Alabama?
Yeah, so before the season, I asked Nate who kind of was the most surprising newcomer, and whatever his answer was going to be, I was thinking, all right, this is going to be the guy that I'll probably end up doing that big feature on, kind of like what I did with Labaron Philon last year. And he did say Amari Allen, and he said the reason why is because he was underrated coming out of high school, and they weren't really sure why. And I kind of used that angle, and I asked Amari certain questions around that, and I asked Preston Murphy certain questions around that, and I asked Nate Oates, just kind of, did you ever expect him to be a one and done kind of player? Because he is on that trajectory right now. Obviously, he's got a lot of time to make up his mind on whether he wants to stay another year or transfer or go to the NBA. But I guess one of my favorite things with that was talking with Preston Murphy. We only spoke for about 6 minutes, but super insightful 6 minutes. And something that I didn't know was Amari was never given an official offer because he was this really undervalued guy. And the second that an offer would go, it would kind of be like a domino effect for all other schools. And Amari wasn't really sure what that meant at the time. I mean, I don't even, I would get that. Like, that's a kind of a weird situation. I mean, Preston himself said it was kind of a unique situation. And then Amari comes here. He thinks, oh, I'm not sure if I'm able to play here. Preston's like, oh, he's a super humble kid, and his mom actually convinced him that he could hang around this school, and you see what he's doing now.
Great results as a result for Amari Allen getting to play for the Crimson Tide. I also enjoyed parts of the story talking about his high school journey, and we've had him talk about it a little bit here as well on this show. But the decision to go to IMG Academy, but then come back to Wisconsin to close out his high school career. Why was that so important to him?
Yeah, so IMG, I mean, he seemed to not regret it. He seemed to learn a lot from it. I mean, you're on a national stage, you're with a bunch of guys that are currently either in the NBA now or dominating in high school or in college rather. And with IMG, he didn't have a ton of minutes. And I asked him, was the reason why he went back to Wisconsin, he went to Schwaben high school. Is the reason why you went back because of minutes? And he said, no, it's because my mom gave birth to my little brother. He's now 2 years old. I'm like, all right, so I guess the stars kind of aligned there. And I mean, he ends up going back to Wisconsin and he wins Wisconsin Gatorade Player of the Year.
Great story. I'm going to invite all Alabama fans to check it out, learn more about Amari Allen as he continues playing a huge role for this basketball team. The Now Hunter turns its attention to Tennessee coming up on Saturday. Some of the road trips have been rough to Rocky Top over the last few years. In your opinion, what do you think is going to be most important for Alabama this Saturday against the Vols?
Well, I mean, before the Arkansas game, I wrote a story on, is the Arkansas game the toughest game left on Alabama's schedule, given that they were the only ranked team on it at the time. And it's kind of like an opinionated article, more of a column, if you will. And I said Arkansas is not the easy or not the toughest game. It's definitely Tennessee. You lose 5 games in a row to Tennessee. It's the first time since 1968 to 72, that span, that's happened. Nados was born in 1974, so that's all you need to know about that. But with Tennessee, obviously Alabama hasn't beaten them. Nate Oates can't beat Rick Barnes, but if you have to find a way to beat them, you have to be consistent in both halves. Kind of like what I said earlier on this show is if you dominate in the first half, you have to just keep your foot on the pedal in the second. It's probably something I'm going to ask Nate during tomorrow's presser. It's just like, how do you practice like being up by 20 and then finishing the game winning by just 15? Like you got to find a way to balance that. Obviously, I don't think Alabama is going to be up by 20 against Tennessee, but they need to find a way to replicate whatever they do in the first half to the second half, if not better in the second half, especially against the Vols.
So that's a good look at Alabama basketball right now as we continue our conversation with Hunter DeSiver. Also, you cover a Crimson Tide football as well
Yep.
for BamaCentral. And right now, as we're in the midst of the offseason, I think a lot of attention turning to Indianapolis and the scouting combine for the
Yeah.
NFL draft. 12 Crimson Tide players are there. If for any football diehards that are out there that want to watch all the coverage of the combine coming up, who are some guys to keep an eye on coming up this week?
Yeah, someone I wrote a story on yesterday that I'm actually kind of excited to see. It's a bit under the radar is Justin Jefferson. Um, Before the season started, Dave Ballou, the strength coach, said that he hit 22 miles per hour and that, and I quote, can run with the DBs. So, I mean, the combine is built around speed. It's built around athleticism, and we saw what he did this year. Finished, I think, second in tackles for loss, also second in tackles. He was up there in sacks. He had a forced fumble, a pick. He had, I think, five pass breakups. It's clear that this kid is an athlete, kind of a heat-seeking missile. And with the combine, you got the 40-yard dash. And he said during his interviews that he was really looking forward to that. He could definitely be up there for linebackers on his 40 time, broad jump and vertical jump. He could also thrive as well. So that's definitely one guy. I think everyone obviously is looking at Ty Simpson. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network revealed a couple days ago the reason why kind of Simpson started out great last year and then kind of swirled down a bit towards the final four games is he had gastritis and he went from being like 210 pounds to 190 in the final like four games or so. But from what I've seen, or what Tom Pelissero said, was that he's kind of back up to the weight that he wants, and he seems good to go. Fernando Mendoza is not going to be throwing. That's Indiana's quarterback. He'll be the first overall pick in the draft unless something crazy happens. But he won't be throwing at the combine. He'll only be throwing at pro day. So Ty Simpson's the next QB on the board. It's a thin QB class, and he's definitely someone to keep an eye on at the combine.
So Ty Simpson moving on to the NFL draft. So we know Austin Mack is coming back, Keelan Russell coming back
Yep.
for the Crimson Tide at the quarterback position. Really, Hunter, will all eyes just be on this quarterback competition as we get into spring football in a few weeks, and then of course into the summer and probably into week one as we get set for the season.
Yeah, 100%. Last year there was obviously that quarterback battle that lasted until I want to say April-ish. That might have been more, maybe in like June. But everyone kind of knew that it was Ty's job to lose and that Keelan and Austin would be battling for QB2, QB3. This year, there is no Ty. And we don't know who it's going to be. It could be Austin, who's a little bit more experienced. He also served as Ty's primary backup this past season. Or it could be Keelan, who is this high school sensation and has proved that in the games that he's played for Alabama that he could play some college football. Obviously, some of the games that he has played were against like ULM, Eastern Illinois, but he's definitely someone to keep an eye on based off his high school status. And in terms of the QB battle overall, I think it might go just an early prediction. I think it might have to go to Austin because of that experience, because he was behind Ty, and that in the Rose Bowl when Alabama has 3 points. Well, no, they had 0 points, and Austin comes in front of I think it was 24 million people that watched the game. He only played a couple drives, and he led Alabama to one of their only scoring drives against a defense that just won the national championship. So he's definitely someone I'm keeping an eye on as well as Keelan, but I think Austin might take it this early.
So as a look at the quarterback competition, anything else you're really curious about as spring practice begins in a few weeks?
Yeah, I'll stick with the offensive side of the ball. I mean, there's plenty of things I'm curious about, but I guess one thing that I'm eyeing is kind of similar to last year is kind of who takes one of the receiver spots. We knew last year that it would be Ryan, German, Isaiah Horton, but now German's gone and Isaiah's gone, and so that leaves Ryan and figure Lottie Brooks is going to have that wide receiver two spot. So instead of knowing who the wide receiver four is last year, we don't even know who the wide receiver three is this year. It could be Rico Scott, who's one of the returning guys. Could be Derek Meadows, who's a returning guy. Could be Sedarian Morgan, who's this star-studded freshman, or it could be this NC State transfer, Noah Rogers. So I'm going to stick with the offense, skill players, and wide receivers definitely something I'm looking at.
Just a matter of time before we make our way back out there to practice field. It's good to see the Crimson Tide getting ready for spring practice. Hunter DeSiver and the BamaCentral team covering it all. Hunter, we just thank you for the time you've given us. Best of luck with everything coming up in your coverage of Alabama athletics. And again, thank you. Roll Tide.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Where we at, Braxton? Challenge, there you go, baby. Here we go. Is that one of those? Oh, that. Oh, selfie? Hell yeah.
My name's Ada Sherrill, and you're watching Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR.
As the tap is controlled by the Tide, and we are underway. Sherrill handing it off to Holloway on a curl, gets into the paint, kicks it into the corner. Jemison, three, bottom.
Sherrill, once he get the ball near the goal, he should dunk everything.
You sound a lot like Brian Pasek on that assessment. No question about that. And here comes Bama the other way. London leaves it for Allen. Steps into a three, bottom.
Great shot, great shot.
Nobody shoots more threes, 35 a game, and why not? When you make them like Amari Allen just did from the near wing. Long rebound comes out to Allen. Back to right, Holloway. Way downtown, got it to go.
He's almost at half court with that one.
He's made one from the back edge of the outline of the state of Alabama.
Man.
He got that one from the nose, if you will. Jemison to Reitzel. Aiden thought about it, now drives, dishes. Here's Sherrill, bottom, and Bama is red, smoking hot. They've made 5 of their 9 bank first threes.
And it just reminds me of the Warrior system. They want you to take them threes, especially when they're wide open. You know, everybody's shooting with confidence, and they seeing it go in tonight.
Especially when you got Steph Curry.
Man.
they can shoot it. But Bama's got a little splash brother look to him right now.
Yeah, they like they have a splash team right now.
As now Bull Bowen tries the three from the top of the arc, and he knocks home another bank first triple.
You have to pick your poison tonight.
Whew. And here's Bama the other way. Jemison to Millette, near side, three, bottom, 22-6. Shot clock down to 6. Latrell with it at 5. Over to Allen, another deep three, makes it, and he is fouled. I swear, I think he was just trying to draw the contact. Threw it up, hit the deck, rattled it in, and Bama with a chance for a 4-point play.
Man, the way they making threes tonight, it's really crazy. It's falling in.
That is now 8 of 14 in the first half. Behind the back with the dribble, off of a screen, left alone, shoots a three, and you'd have been shocked if it didn't go. Knocks down another one. Aiden Holloway now with 7. Back he goes to Holloway. Aiden back to Allen, left alone. Knocks down another one. It's not just the shot, it's not just the makes, but they're getting really good open shots.
Great shots. I'm talking about great shots. In rhythm, too.
And running their offense to get it. Still looking, throws the lob, and the dunk was just missed, as you could tell from the reaction by my broadcast partner.
Almost got me out my seat.
It was Sherrill who was trying to throw it home on the design play on the inbounds.
Man, I just love to see that type of effort, though. Like, I believe if you're big, anything around the rim, it should be a dunk, man.
How many times did Relly throw those at the rim for you?
He threw a lot to Tony.
He threw a lot to Tony.
I'm jealous.
Yeah,
I didn't get them.
He would tell you they were for you, but Tony intercepted them. Tony stole it, threw it down. Both free throws good by Sherrill, and Bama leads it again by 22. Flips it over to Reitzel. Latrell shoots a three and knocks it down. That was so pretty. Bama's made 11 of 18. Now Millette for 3. Another one good, and timeout called by Chris Jans of Mississippi State.
Bank First was going to be tired of us tonight.
Bank First getting their money's worth tonight, that's for sure. They paid the flat rate. They're not getting billed on the number 3 made. They like hearing their name called, and I don't blame them. Aiden to the top of the arc, now driving down the lane, high floater off the window, and got it to go. He's got such a soft touch around the rim.
And herky-jerky right there on that perimeter, getting the big up in the air and going right past him.
Holloway on the drive, stopping, looking, corner. Jemison for 3. He started the scoring, and he knocks down another bank first 3. Gets it in to Reitzel. Corner 3. This is getting ridiculous. He has made the 16th bank first three of the first half. Still with the dribble alive, top of the arc. Gives it off. Allen, right side, three. Amari Allen with 21 points to go with 5 boards.
6 for 6 from the three-point line.
He is indeed. And it's 69-37. Here is Sherrell, top of the arc. A dribble and a handoff to Holloway. Back near side, Allen dribbles to his right, kicks it back to Holloway. Holloway driving underneath. Gets underneath to Sherrell, now to Reitzel. All alone, three.
Love that ball move.
Candy from a baby right now.
Love that ball move right there.
Unbelievable unselfishness from the Tide. Working off a screen from Sherrell. Gets to the elbow, flips it back. Sherrell, three.
Great.
Guess what? 9 from Aiden Sherrell to go with his 4 boards. Jalil to his right with a dribble. Cut off. Now goes left. Kicks it in the corner. Millette, spot up 3. Bottom.
Great look.
Driving down the lane. Getting underneath. Williamson for 3. Get in, baby. Couldn't get it to drop. Rebound tip into the hands of Jemison. And Bama hits the century mark once again. 8th time this year. Bama with 20 assists and another century mark for the Tide offensively as well. And he is going to let it fly from deep, and he made it with 1.6 to go. Coach is shaking hands. It's a nice, even, if you will, 100-75. Bama a 25-point victor. And if you're ever going to do it, strike up the band.
Long time, baby.
Well, they didn't hit the record, but 22 threes, the most in any SEC game this year, and Bama a comfortable 100-75 victory over the Bulldogs of Mississippi State.
Hi, my name is Amari Allen, and you're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Fans, here's our next episode of Seat to Shine, presented by SeatGeek, as we highlight Alabama gymnastics.
My hidden talent would probably be cooking. I cook for my roommates a lot. We have like a big Ninja grill, like an indoor one, so I just throw a steak in there and it's perfect. I first started gymnastics in like the Mommy and Me classes with my mom in California. I think I was like 3, and then I started really doing gymnastics when I was 5 or 6. Well, I'm from Washington, so obviously Alabama was like a shock to everyone when I decided to come here, but on my visit it just felt like home, and the coaching staff was amazing, and the girls were so welcoming, and it just felt like home. I would say my dream vacation would probably be Bora Bora. I would probably be swimming a lot and I'd probably try and get on a jet ski. For me, my biggest moment at Alabama was against Florida, competing vault, and I stuck my vault, got a 9925, and my teammates were probably prouder of me than I was myself. My favorite artist would be Party Next Door, but before meets, I'd probably listen to Drake more. I would say the fans are our biggest supporter during a meet. They're always cheering, and we always need more of them. I mean, I think I have the best seat on the floor, but I would say in the middle, like facing floor, you get a pretty good view of beam and bars. I would say my biggest supporter would probably be my mom. She's a big part, and she's also the biggest reason I compete for the Philippines because she's fully Filipino. Advice I would give to a young gymnast would be to stick with it. I know it gets hard sometimes, but the end is worth it.
Hey, I'm Ace Allison, and you're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Fun time with Chris Stewart and JaMichael Green, and of course Tom Stipe last night with our basketball booth cam presented by NASCAR. I appreciate Ethan Carabin running that live stream last night, in addition to putting up the highlights for Alabama last night's win against Mississippi State. Time to take a look at our upcoming schedule. A busy time for Crimson Tide athletics as we take a look at what's ahead for all of us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Well, I mentioned I got to hit the road to Nashville for Alabama women's basketball tonight at Vanderbilt. 6:30 the tip-off at Memorial Memorial Gym. Our coverage will start at 6:15 across the network. Then softball, the busy weekend hosting the T-Mobile Crimson Classic, and an additional game was added to the Crimson Tide schedule as well. The baseball team in Frisco, Texas at the Frisco Collegiate Baseball Classic. We look forward to seeing those results come in against Iowa, Oregon State, and Houston. Men's basketball at Tennessee in Knoxville coming up on Saturday. 4 p.m. will be the airtime for our coverage, and then 5 o'clock the tip-off from the Food City Center. And then women's basketball closing it out on Sunday morning, 11 a.m. against 4th-ranked Texas. Be there early to support this Crimson Tide senior class. And then when we talk to you next week, we're going to be talking about the SEC Women's Basketball Tournament in Greenville, South Carolina. What a time it's going to be. And then we'll also have Hey Coach coming your way on Monday night at 6 p.m. from Baumhauer's in Tuscaloosa. Make sure you don't miss anything coming up this busy weekend. Follow us at UA_CTSN. You can get final scores there. You can get interview clips from Crimson Drive, of course, as well as booth cam highlights from softball, and later on, of course, women's basketball on Sunday. But all of that is available, of course, just by following us, especially subscribing on YouTube to the Crimson Tide Sports Network. And that's going to wrap up this very busy edition of Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR. Huge thank you to our guest, Labaron Philon Jr., as well as Hunter DeSiver of BamaCentral. Thanks to Ethan Carabin, of course, our video producer, who puts all of this show together, including our booth cam highlights. He recorded that interview as well with Labaron. We appreciate Ethan and all the hard work he continues to give us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. I got to hit the road. It's time to get to Nashville. Alabama against Vanderbilt coming up later tonight. We look forward to that in women's basketball, but hopefully all of you enjoy a great weekend of Alabama athletics. For everybody with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thanks for watching Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR. So long and roll Tide.